Hey class. So the first activity that you're going to do today is look at sentence structure. Now, in the first Socratic seminar or discussion board that you did about The Catcher in the Rye, I asked about the type of language that's used in the book, and most of you probably noticed that Holden Caulfield has a pretty specific way of speaking. He is obviously very foul. He uses lots of bad language. He also kind of has at times a very immature way of speaking, and other times he tries to make him seem as if he's older than he actually is. And a lot of that plays into the character that Holden Caulfield is and the way that he chooses as the narrator to portray himself to the reader. But another thing that we're going to look at in regards to sentence structure and kind of the way the book is written is the types of sentences that J.D. Salinger uses as the author. And if you look, there are a few definitions that are going to kind of break down what those sentences may look like. Some of his sentences are kind of wordy. There's a lot of punctuation that makes them correct, but they're very long, while others are a little bit shorter. So first off, a sentence. So a sentence, as you can see at the top of the page, is a group of words expressing a complete thought. A sentence must contain a subject and a verb, which is someone or something performing some kind of action. So he threw the ball. Coordination is when you're joining two independent clauses correctly. This is with a comma and a coordinating conjunction. And some examples of coordinating conjunctions are and, but, or, since, because, and there are many, many more, but those are just a few. And then finally, a subordination, which is joining a dependent clause with an independent clause using a comma. This won't have a coordinating conjunction, rather it'll be almost like that little bit of extra information that someone needs to make a sentence complete. So from the novel, your goal is to find and copy down one example for each of the following items listed. I've given you an example for each of the items that, of course, you cannot use, and you may not use the same sentence for more than one of the examples. So you need 4 different sentences, each one of them meeting the necessary aspects of that type of sentence, and no, you may not use the examples I provided. So if you look at number 1, I'm looking for a simple sentence. Again, a simple sentence has someone or something doing something. And in this case, I give you the example of a simple sentence has only one independent clause and no dependent clauses. So one of the examples from page 1 says, I'm not going to tell you about my whole goddamn autobiography or anything. So Holden just simply says he's not going to do, and he tells us what he's not going to do. Moving on to the second type of sentence is a compound sentence. You can see a compound has 2 or more independent clauses, which are usually joined by a comma and a coordinating conjunction. If you look up here to remind yourself, a coordinating conjunction are words like and, but, or, since, or because. So the example from the text is, that isn't too far from this crumby place, and he comes over and visits me practically every weekend. If you take that and out and put a period where the comma is, you could say that isn't too far from this crumby place, and that is a sentence. You could also say he comes over and visits me practically every weekend. Now we don't know exactly who he is, but we know he is a person who's doing something. He's coming over and visiting. The third type is a complex sentence, and a complex sentence is one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. So for instance, page 1, he used to be just a regular writer when he was home. So we have an independent clause, and it would be he used to be just a regular writer, and our dependent clause, when he was home. The reason that's dependent is when he was home what? Well, when he was home, he used to be a regular writer. So we know that that's adding information to an independent sentence. And then the fourth one is a compound complex sentence, and you'll notice that this has 2 or more independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. So typically these are relatively lengthy sentences. They don't have to be as lengthy as the example I have shown you here, but you have at least 3 sections to each sentence. So the example would be, if you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where I was born, and what my lousy childhood was like, and how my parents were occupied and all before they had me, and all that David Copperfield kind of crap. But I don't feel like going into it, if you want to know the truth. So you can see there are several times where through narration Holden Caulfield has told us an independent clause, but he's also added in several dependent clauses to give us additional information. So your goal is to find an example of each one of those sentences and type them into the space provided and upload it to the Dropbox. Have a good... If you have any trouble, just let me know. All right, thanks.